Here in the highlands of Kravaseria, it's probably the last time this year that the sun will illuminate the hills clothed in the rich red colours of autumn. In the shadow of the newly renovated Catholic church, children from the local school keep warm with a game of soccer. The renovation of this medieval church is more than a simple restoration. It is also a symbol, a source of pride for the people of this part of Kosovo. It is a sign that the centuries-long iron grip of Islam and communism has finally ended. Families once threatened with persecution and death, who had to hide their Christian identity, can now live their faith openly. Today, children can approach Father Robert, the parish priest, and prepare for their first Holy Communion without fear. There is a sense of returning, of homecoming. The village of Kravaseria lies in the municipality of Malishevo. It's a poor region. Many of its inhabitants work abroad. Those who stay can barely make ends meet. Yet, despite the poverty, locals take pride in offering generous hospitality. A visit from their new parish priest is a great honor for every family. Accompanied by nuns, Father Robert visits the home of Imer Bitucci. Not long ago, Imer received the sacrament of baptism, and soon his children will also be baptized.
My father told me that once we were all Catholics, and that's what I have become. I lived in Slovenia for 20 years, and I always went to church there. None of my working colleagues made a problem about it. They all came to my christening.
Imer's family, like the majority of people from the mountainous parts of Kosovo, belong to an underground community known as crypto-Catholics. The Kosovan Albanians call them ljaramani, or chameleonic. This phenomenon in the Balkans dates back to the 15th century, when this area fell to the Ottoman Empire. Unable to resist the pressure and terror imposed by the Turks, the majority of Kosovan Albanians publicly converted to Islam. However, some of them, in the remote mountain villages, in the privacy of their homes, continued to practice the Catholic faith. They never lost hope that one day they'd be able to cross the church threshold publicly once again without fear of reprisal. Dr. Jahja Drancoli, professor at Pristina University, clarifies the historical context.
Crypto-Catholicism manifested itself in more or less an outward formula, not of the essence, but just to allay the pressures of sectarian levies, disturbances, violence, etc. Those who switched to crypto-Catholicism, they still subscribed to church stipulations. They attended liturgy, but out of sight. Show it publicly.
Ismet Sopi comes from the village of Lapushnik in the municipality of Drenica. He is a journalist and the owner of a local radio station. Like many crypto-Catholics, he's proud of his forefathers who, despite Turkish terror, held on to the Christian faith in his family.
For us crypto-Catholics, it was commonplace to practice both Islam and the Catholic faith in our homes. Islam came in mostly through the Muslim women who married into our culture, which had been a Catholic one for as long as I can remember. In our homes, we were aware of the feasts of Christmas, Easter, the Assumption, and the other big feasts. We'd light candles, make the sign of the cross, and pray. We'd celebrate Bayram all right, and Christmas and Easter were celebrated more symbolically. Funerals were led by Islamic clergy.
In this sense, the fidelity and dedication of the Albanian people to the Catholic Church was never broken. Bishop Dode Gjergji notes these deep historic roots.
We could say
that the Catholic Church in Kosovo is an apostolic church. The Church of St. Paul and the Albanian people are a biblical people. We know that St. Paul wrote to the Romans, that he preached the gospel to the Illyrians, and that he brought the Illyrian people to the Bible. The Albanians were faithful to the Catholic Church. They were faithful to apostolic teaching up until the arrival of the Turks. From the 16th century onwards, and especially after the 17th, there was an Islamization of the Albanian people, so that the majority changed over. Despite this, even though they switched to Islam, they never gave up the Catholic faith.
This link with the Church didn't suit many regimes and enemies of the Albanian people. Throughout the 20th century in Kosovo, it was politically incorrect to emphasize the strong historical ties to the Catholic Church. However, to this day, there are numerous archaeological finds throughout the country, evidence of an early Christian presence, which the political regime of the time prevented from being excavated. 4 kilometers from Kosovo's capital, Pristina, lies Ulpijana, one of the rare partially excavated sites of remains from an early Christian diocese.
I was born a Muslim, but I know my predecessors were Catholics, real Catholics. I did some documentary research in Dubrovnik, in Venice, in Rome. One of my ancestors was a bishop in Skadar, and he was impaled in 1691. It's interesting that the churches for Easter and other feast days are full of Muslims. I'm one of them. I'm always there for those celebrations. This phenomenon of Christianity and rediscovering one's roots, it is a phenomenon of knowing oneself. In all Albanian families, it is something that is discussed. In the coffee bars too. The whole Albanian people discuss their religious experiences and seek out what is best for them. They want to decide. I refer to it as a re-Christianization and re-Islamization of the Albanian people, because it is going in both directions at the same time. We have people who are being baptized, who wish to return again and publicly proclaim that they are returning to the Catholic faith. They are not leaving Islam. but rather they realized that they were never really Muslims. It's just that now they can proclaim it publicly. As far back as the 1990s, we were trying to revive our faith because the younger generations were beginning to slowly forget that they belonged to Christianity. But the war came, and we simply couldn't do it. Now that Kosovo has proclaimed its independence, we decided to openly declare what we feel so that the whole world knows that we're Christian.
Interdenominational tolerance amongst people and in the family was needed for crypto-Catholics to survive. Agron Bitucci, a professor at the Academy of Art in Pristina, remembers it vividly.
When you're a child of parents of two different faiths, that is something exceptional and very special, because I personally don't know what it is to hate another faith. My mother took the news of my decision to convert with great ease. She already knew what direction her children would take, and we had freedom of choice. It didn't matter. I still love and respect my Muslim uncles in the same way just as I do anyone who is not Christian.
Kosovo's Islamization lasted 3 centuries. A part of the population managed to resist, and out of that tiny kernel grew Kosovo's Catholic Church, which today numbers 65,000 faithful, 47 priests, and over 100 nuns, dispersed amongst 24 different parishes throughout Kosovo. The church is experiencing dynamic growth, with the greatest number of vocations in Europe. Đakovica, a little-known town in western Kosovo, has the greatest concentration of Catholics in the country. One of the most inspiring moments in the parish year occurs on the feast day of St. Paul, when the faithful gather to celebrate their patron saint and the beginnings of Christianity with a procession and Holy Mass. After so many years in the catacombs, happy they no longer have to hide their faith.
The life of the Catholic Church changed here in 1999 because a new era began in which members could freely express their faith. They were able to pray without fear and be represented openly in the media. We were allowed to have open relationships with our presidents, and we were allowed the space to expand as much as we wanted.
One of the bloodiest periods in their history for the Kosovan Albanians began towards the end of the 1990s. The final disbanding of Yugoslavia in this region. Following the NATO intervention of 1999, the century-long Serbian domination over the majority of Albanian citizens finally ended. The path to Kosovo's long-awaited independence was now clear. Today, Kosovo is a place of renewed hope for a better future. The very word independence is met with a smile on the faces of the majority of Europe's youngest country. About 2 million inhabitants, 90% of this area of Yugoslavia's once autonomous province are ethnically Albanians. Kosovo also has the youngest population in Europe. Over 50% are under 26 years of age. But things have not been easy. Pristina University professor Dr. Mark Krasniqi points to some of the key challenges facing the country.
We're hoping for an improvement in economics. We have no industry. It's all been usurped and devastated. There's great poverty here, and unemployment is a huge problem. About 50% of the employable population have no jobs. Once you have no industry where you can employ the people, you can't employ everyone in administration.
For the average Kosovan Albanian, religious freedom is fundamental to their new national identity. All faiths are respected, and they are proud to point out that although Albanians include Muslims, Catholics and Orthodox, there are no sectarian conflicts. During the War of Independence, however, a more radical Islam emerged, a consequence of Saudi Arabian and Iranian influence. Following centuries of peaceful coexistence, some tensions between the major religions have surfaced and have been felt within the local Islamic community. Vice Dean of the Islamic University, Jahja Morina, explains.
Our problems were of an ideological nature. Our children were coming home from school with an ideology which was foreign to our people and our Islamic tradition. We had situations where some of our young people marginalized other faiths and even marginalized their own fellow Muslims, saying that our Islamic traditions, which have been practiced here for 5 or 6 centuries, were not legitimate. The elderly and people from my own generation were stupefied to hear that their practicing of the faith was not original Islam at all. This caused a lot of consternation among the people. This new concept of Islam brought division among us between ourselves and our Orthodox and Catholic brothers. This was unheard of in our denominational and national traditions. All professions of faith should be able to live side by side. Islam, Catholicism and Orthodox, just as they always had done in these parts.
Unlike in Bosnia and Herzegovina, where the Wahhabites exerted significant influence over local Muslims, they had little impact on the religious and cultural life of Albanian Muslims in Kosovo's rural areas. However, the presence and aggressive behavior of this, at present, minority movement within Kosovan Islam surprised and disturbed Kosovo's Christians. Pashk Jahja, a Catholic jeweler from Prizren, a town in southern Kosovo, was amazed by these changes.
Other denominations don't disturb me. If you cannot respect other people's faith, you cannot respect your own. But extremism is disturbing to me. As far back as I can remember, and I came to Prizren as a little child, I do not ever remember seeing a Muslim woman veiled. That's an Arabic tradition. We never had problems here, nor do we have them now, but I'm afraid that it gained momentum. Now there's a sensitivity growing. It can be seen everywhere. I don't understand to whose advantage it can be.
For Ramiz Kelmendi, a known journalist, publicist and professor, this is also a worry.
For me, it's so sad to see all this. I see young girls veiled and hooded. It took us 100 years to remove these things. Now these intellectual women come like this to the university where I've been working 12 years. One young woman came to me with a veil. This has got nothing to do with Albanians or their culture. It was of key importance that we knew that it was a forced Islamization, that our ancestors kept the faith that we really belong to alive. The second reason was the ever-increasing presence of a radical Islam, which was forced by a minority within the Islamic community. We wanted to protect our children from that negativity. They are the two reasons why we have decided to openly speak of our faith.
Kosovo's minority Catholic population have sought encouragement for their nascent renaissance within the Universal Church. Charities such as Aid to the Church in Need have understood the importance of supporting this new Catholic identity, especially the renewal of houses of worship, such as the new Catholic cathedral in the capital city Pristina, dedicated to Mother Teresa. Agron Bitucci sees this cathedral as a unique symbol.
I see this cathedral as a seed that was planted in our country 2,000 years ago, during which our people suffered unspeakable suffering and sacrifice. Too often our soil has been soaked in the blood of our people, who only wanted to hold on to their culture, tradition and language. And now out of that soil, just at the moment of the declaration of independence, the seed has sprouted in the form of this cathedral and began to grow for us and presented a crown of freedom and democracy. It's significant that this cathedral bears the name of Mother Teresa, one of the greatest people of the 20th century, who we can freely say was a living gospel in the world.
As a young woman on the threshold of a life-changing decision, Mother Teresa came here to the shrine of the Mother of God of Letnica. Immersed in prayer before the statue of Our Lady of Letnica, she sought the necessary graces for the difficult journey ahead. On the eve of the Assumption of Our Lady, Bishop Dr. Jahja leads his congregation in Mother Teresa's footsteps, in this, the biggest Marian shrine in this part of the Balkans. Here, they seek the intercession of Our Lady for a peaceful future for the new nation of Kosovo.
We want to put it back into the minds of all Albanians so that they love Christianity and love the Church. We will continue to consider those who would wish otherwise, who seek another way of looking at the world, as our brothers. But those who are looking for our God, we'll continue to invite them to return home.
On the Feast of the Assumption, 20,000 Catholics from Kosovo and the surrounding countries come to pray before the Madonna of Letnica. Among them, Ismet Sopi with his family.
To be honest, since I was baptized, I feel fantastic, and I'm finally free. In some way, I feel a satisfaction, because I know I fulfilled the vows of my ancestors. When we were christened, me and my family and relations together went off to the graves of our parents and whispered to them that we had fulfilled their wishes and told them we were now Christian.
Agron Bitucci didn't just honor his ancestors by being baptized. For him, his baptism is first and foremost a solution for future challenges that he and his family will face.
I was baptized on the 15th of June, 1995. In this act, I'm honoring my ancestors, some of whom suffered to protect their faith, even though they risked severe repercussions. It's probably the greatest experience of my life, and both me and my children will continue on this road forever. For my children, it won't be hard to decide where to go, because I'll be in a position to show them the way to the true light.